Anyways, here we are. Good morning, Ed Vargas with New Mexico, Promesa, New Mexico. Here to all our viewers and listeners. We're here in the program with Mary Ingham and Marcie May. Mary Ingham is running for County Commissioner, District 2, and Marcie is for New Mexico Home
House
House,
district,
house, I mean, home, well, House District 28.
right?
And we have also here with us Audrey Trujillo with also running for New Mexico Senate District 9, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
How's everybody?
Doing good.
doing good. Thanks.
I've been enjoying the rain.
Yes, the other day I got caught on Saturday night from Rio Grande, whatever is over there, and it took me an hour and a half. I took the city, it was worse. I should have stuck in the freeway.
Right. The
Is that your
downtown was flooded.
Yeah,
The water went up to at least half up to the wheels.
that was a storm, not just rain.
Right.
Yes, poor, poor, and poor, which is good. I mean, if
We need the
it's getting to Bernardillo, that needs a lot of rain. Well, it needed it, but now just making sure that
a
one
little
of
It's a
those
bit
flood.
gradual. would
one of
be
those
good.
crazy sparks again to start something up over there, because it gets hot here.
Yeah.
It actually helped our situation up in Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Really?
They were having problems with their water supply, and I guess they had the National Guard bringing water for them. And then I just read this morning that their water reservoirs are now working. So praise God for that.
Yes.
Good, good. So good morning to all the three of you. I mean, it's not fair, three against one. Women against one man over here. We should match it up next time somehow. But anyways, uh, what information, what news do you bring to us today, uh, Marcy?
Well, was really thinking about that this morning. I was reading in Philippians, and
Uh,
it talks about how our, let me just pull this up so that I'm not.
I could put it on
talking.
my screen, but you
It's
guys
okay.
should think I lost everything because my big monitor does a lot of wonders. We're ready for everything.
Right. Well, it talks about peace in
Okay.
there. And isn't that what everybody's really wanting? Some kind of peace. But the meaning in the word peace in the Greek comes from prosperity.
Okay.
And isn't that kind of ironic? Because a lot of people want to chase prosperity, thinking that they're going to get peace. But
Yeah.
the gift that God gives us is through peace, is through prosperity, is the peace. God wants us to be able to be taken care of. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why New Mexico has been always attacked. We have a high poverty rate, and our businesses were attacked this last 4 years. They were closed down, and I was thinking that's really an attack from the enemy to steal our peace.
Exactly.
And but God has he says, I, I pray that your soul prospers, that you prosper even as your soul prospers. And so when we have the inner peace from the Lord, it spreads out and it's a blessing.
It is. It is. No, I believe that. Here in I myself, I've been only 3 years just about here in Albuquerque, and I believe it's even though I've been in big, huge cities, when I came here the first day, I wanted to leave right away because I said, "What kind of a land or place did I come to?" Though?
Right.
This is, you know, and
Brown.
but I learned to get attached to Albuquerque, the people.
Right.
There's a lot of resources, a lot of opportunities, a lot of welfare for everyone. But the only thing that I don't see is people in some places doing the right thing for the people.
Right.
I wanted to say government, but I didn't want to get started, take a shot at them real quick. But, you know, it's like how these policies, things are getting tweaked, things are getting put in the perspective for some interest that it doesn't preserve the peace, like you said. like challenging the families with these gender thing. You know what I mean? And all the other type of teachers being involved more with the students. They're not, because they're going to have to worry about things, because they do sign now things that they're not allowed to go to uh, the thing that is we are famous in here is that freeway speech, that to speak our mind and say what we think. So we're losing some of that, and besides people, because of the fear and the poverty, you know, you you can conquer poverty, you can keep them there, and then that's it. That's the style that leaders in South America they do. Though they rather, instead of improving the country, they rather make the poor poorer, because they want them to keep voting for them. Because if they know that they can get a little educated, they explain more things, they're not going to be with them no more. So that's a fear, things like that. So in here, I believe there is a great opportunity, and I got to meet both of you, and now Miss Trujillo, that probably has something to say along the line that that you wanted to do here for the people in this city, and this, for the welfare of everybody else. What about you, Mary?
Well, it just I've been thinking a lot about the sorry. I've been thinking a lot about the birthday of our country, which
Yes.
is Thursday, Independence Day. And I had a vision of that, not that but I mean just an idea, as a nation where God is honored, where religious freedom flourishes, where families thrive and life is cherished. And I think those are overarching that should be, across our country and certainly in our state, that we really need to, focus on those things. The fact that God is not honored is, what Marcie was talking about. It takes away our peace and takes away our ability to flourish and
I,
without God.
exactly, but he's making his presence though. People are coming out, and the inauguration for the soccer international league that is being played over here in Mexico,
Mhm.
Ecuador, Argentina, Panama, Jamaica, and all that. And the inauguration, this person, they mention God. And he says, what kind of a trouble is he going to get involved now? Because that's the first time ever that somebody really come out and gave a speech to about almost 100,000 people.
Wow.
And I said, wow, his presence is being felt.
Yes.
This is the way we're going to lift and take people, let people know that they need to stand up,
Yes.
because God is coming to them. They got to come to God. And in order to do that, they're going to have to reach for the peace and the welfare that He wants for all of us to enjoy.
Yes.
Let me ask Ms. Trujillo, what do you have to say about what you just heard about, things that are about the people, about God?
You know, I think they have taken God out of everything. They've tried to anyway. But I do feel that I feel that the people are starting to see that they need the Lord. They need God to prosper. We can't have prosperity if we don't have a moral compass. Um, Everything that we've seen up until now and today is, you know, we have all these welfare programs, but they're not helping people prosper. They're helping people stay where they're at. And when I look at government and what we see here in New Mexico is we have people at the top that basically want peasants. And how do you get peasants? You keep them down at the bottom. They want to be our rulers. They're not our rulers. God has given us the strength and the purpose in every person's life. We're all individual. We're all made to serve Him. And what I'm seeing is people they're not prospering because the way the system is put together, and I'm talking about the people that are getting welfare, using these social programs. They're not geared to give them a hands up. They're geared to give them a hands down so they stay where they're at. And we need to stop that. We need to change that. We're not here to just give out free things. We're here to help people when they're in need and help them, or inspire them at least to have something better. And in New Mexico, I was born and raised here. I've been here all my life. my family generations for up to 15 generations, I think we counted back. And things have changed drastically from my great-grandparents all the way to my dad's generation. They worked hard, they didn't look at government to help them. That was like the last resort. That was when you were at the bottom of the bottom. They worked 3 jobs. My father, him and my mother, they got married very, very young, and he sold his first car to put a down payment on a house and rode his 10-speed to work every day. And he worked 2 different shifts. Those are the things that I think we're lacking. You can succeed. America is the America dream. We are in a country that we can do and we can live our dreams. But I think what we have seen now is everybody wants to take care of everybody, but they don't realize they're taking away the biggest part of humanity, and that's a purpose. People need purpose in their lives. You look at even the elderly, the seniors, as soon as they don't have a purpose, that's when they pretty much, just stop caring and just end, and I think that's what we're doing to society. Our kids need opportunities. They don't need everything free. They need opportunities to show that hard work does bring them to a place where they can prosper. So, I have 2 boys that are in college right now. They're at the University of New Mexico, where I graduated from. And, school is going to be school. You're going to have a moral compass when you go into any university, any school. And that comes from your parents. And what I feel is that parents need to stand up. They've allowed our government, our education system, to raise our kids. And that's where they went wrong. Fortunately, I was able to be a stay-at-home mom and be able to be involved in the school system, to let them know that there was a presence there of a parent. And that made the world of difference for my kids. But I see other parents that just drop their kids off and it's a daycare for them since they're as young as they can take them, and that's wrong. When they're not with their parents, the parents don't even know how to handle their kids anymore. They're in front of a device, whether it's a computer or their phone, and it's disconnecting these children. They're not able to function in society like we did. They don't go play outside like normal kids. And I'm not saying all of them, but there's a lot of, I'm talking about like in general, most kids live their lives through a computer. And we need to take them out there and get them some fresh air. We need to go take them camping. We got to go do things that are fun where the family's all involved. We don't have nuclear families like we used to. We used to have like the grandparents, were around and they had influence on our kids. Now everybody's really separated. We don't have that same type of lifestyle, but we need to bring in our neighbors. We need to bring in people like Marcie and people that want to be family and want to be in those spots where there's a need. We need to come together as a Christian based society. That's where the help comes from. And when we talk about help, it's not just giving everybody free. And that's where I think I differ in an opinion as far as where welfare comes in place. Yes, there's needs out there, but we also need to give back to these people by allowing them to prosper, train them, bring back, these training services through jobs where maybe they can get in there and actually learn a trade and be able to support themselves eventually. So that's my take.
Okay, but let's say for instance, we need to improve things or we need to change, because the fact that the things that they're doing right now is not quite working. Say
Hmm.
improving is just, it's a higher task than just changing things to focus in the needs of the people. What do you think about when you get to the Senate? What are you what are your improvements or changes?
Well, first of all, we got to look at the laws that we already have in place. More laws doesn't mean that we're going to be that we need more laws. A lot of laws are redundant in the legislature. We already have them there. When it comes to our constitutional rights, we got to make sure that we look through a lens of the Constitution. For me, it's every time I look at a law and I'm like, okay, is this constitutional? And I think, in order to be able to really do a really good job in the legislature, you need to know the Constitution. That's important. That's we live in a country that has an awesome Constitution. And I think with all these legislators that have come in, I don't believe a lot of them understand the Constitution and how wonderful our country is, and they bring in these laws and things that actually infringe upon our rights. We're there to support and represent the people. We're there as servants to the people. We're not there to be leaders, to govern over the people. So we need to be the voice. So when we see things that are coming across our desks, when we're up there at the legislature that are not right, we need to stand up and not be afraid to upset anybody at that legislature. I'm not going to go with the grain if it's not right. If it's not constitutional, I'm not going to, support that bill just because I want another bill to pass and to get along. We need to unite on the things that are most important to us and start looking at those things first that actually, just people are hurting. We look at taxation. We're overtaxing this state. It's ridiculous. We're losing doctors. We're losing teachers. We're losing a lot of people, good people, educated people to other states because we have so much red tape and taxation, malpractice suits. We are the state that has the most malpractice suits. So it's almost impossible for a medical professional to work here. That's a problem because when we need help and we need a specialist, we're going to have to go out of state to get that type of help because none of our doctors are staying here. There's so many issues that we need to look at and we have to be, mostly it's common sense. You don't go in and pass laws that are going to hurt our economy and hurt our people or take away oil and gas that supports, 80 to 90% of our budget. It's ridiculous how what we have been seeing. And I think it's because we don't have logical people in there. We don't have constitutional people in there. There's very few that are fighting for our rights. And we need to stand up. And that's what I want to do when I get in the Senate. I really want to be the voice of those people that have been forgotten.
Thank you, Mrs. Trujillo. That's very interesting. What about you, Marcie?
If I could say, I am so impressed that her dad sold his car for a down payment. We have this mentality that we have to keep on getting stuff and no one ever talks about the sacrifice. He sacrificed his convenience for stability. And there's another gentleman, his name is Kevin Black, and he talked about how when he was a young Black man, his family lived in the projects and his dad was there. He was like, we're going to stay here only as long as we need it, because that situation wasn't good. His goal was to get out. And, we have those welfare programs as that safety net. The single mom with her child, the families who, got, hit some really hard times, but that should not be the basis of what people should be looking for. Just like Mary was saying, um, we shouldn't always be wanting those things because when we're just given things, if I know the Bible says, an inheritance gained too quickly leads to ruin. And when we are given something without really understanding properly the sacrifice that it took for our grandparents or our parents or someone else who, even a scholarship, someone sacrificed for that money. And when we don't understand the sacrifice that it took and we take it for granted, then we end up with people going to like the universities for degrees, in basket weaving or, social justice, and it's not being used properly. And one thing my dad always used to say is you need to appreciate it. You know, we need to appreciate those things. Education, not indoctrination. Education is what Frederick Douglass said is emancipation. When we are given skills to make ourselves better,
Mm.
then we encourage other people to make themselves better. I mean, better, like, okay, as a human being, we have worth in God's eyes. We're not talking about that. But when we are empowering ourselves to get that better job or to make, life easier and, providing like water purification plants, those kinds of things, those just don't come from someone giving you something. You have to go through something hard and lack something. I just talked to a gentleman yesterday who is his mom was from Vietnam, and they were under communism. They still are, but, she was like, "I don't wanna go back there. I love America.
Uh-huh.
I love America," because she was able to be free. And if you talk to anyone who's come from these countries who've been under communism, they see what's happening, and they're like, "This is not what I signed up for."
Right.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
they start recognizing it because that's where they left. They
Right.
start recognizing it. And that's the
Fact.
scary thing is these people from other countries that are here because they worked hard to come here legally because they left communism. They're starting to see it in our United States. They're starting to see it peek its ugly head. And those are the people that we really need to get on these kind of podcasts because they've already seen it. you know we're not really recognizing it because we don't know what it is. Some of us aren't. But
That's
those
correct.
that came from it definitely recognize it. And we need to be, I think they would be great to be on a podcast like this to talk about the issues that they saw and how it started. I spoke to a lady from Venezuela, and they had a beautiful country. It was prosperous.
Yes.
Venezuela wasn't like the Venezuela that we see today, and it completely got ruined. And it started off with taking everything from the rich, giving to the poor, giving, socializing everything, um, and totally destroyed it. And people starving. They were burning money because the money wasn't worth anything to keep themselves warm. They were killing their family pets and eating them because they were starving. I mean, the economy was just a mess. It's in shambles. $100 for a loaf of bread. Think about that. Could you imagine? We saw a little bit of that during COVID, when we had those bread lines and people in line for hours and hours just to get into one big store that they said was essential, like Walmart or Target. And they shut every other small business down. We're not far from that. And we need to be concerned, and we need to let people know, this is what, if we don't fight now, we're not leaving our future generations anything. America was built on people who died for this country, for our freedoms and to prosper. And we can't take that for granted. We need to remind people history will repeat itself, and it is. We're starting to see it.
Right. I did want to say one thing to also piggyback on what Audrey was saying. Our doctors leaving. And so, while the average New Mexican, uh, we're left without proper medical care. We have important people like Michelle Lujan Grisham, who went over to DC to get her knee surgery. Do you remember that? So, people who have money, they're not limited. But, here's people that come in and they come to serve the public and then they're chased away, and that needs to stop. We need to get rid of those regulations.
I believe so, though. I mean, people leaving the country for the reason, a different reason why they came here to.
Right.
It's the freedom. You come over here because I'm one of them about 30 some years ago. And I recognize, say, wow, this is just starting to to look like the jungle I came from. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean? And you keep tabs of where you come from, and you see,
Mhm.
wow, it changes in a different way of how doing the same thing, and probably worse in a way that they make it look like you should is more beneficial to you, but in a way it's not. And
Mhm.
and in here I saw one thing that I told me about 20 some years ago when they took all the religion out of the TVs and all those type of things. Now with this type of gender, now with the schools, now taking the opportunity for a parent and a teacher to complement each other and raise a future, professional, uh, government or somebody who stand for the people, probably a president. Probably people says, yeah, I have a dream
Mhm.
like Martin Luther King, you know what I mean? And we need to have that, prevail that, because we're shutting down that dream that we all have. But when it comes to the front line, which government stands from, it says from here it's not going through. You know what I mean? This is a lot of laws that is really violating our rights. And violating our rights is taking freedom away from us, you know? So go
Well,
ahead.
I think, I was looking at a podcast from some people that are working, for freedom down in Las Cruces area in Doña Ana County. And they did speaking of freedom, that there's people who have too much freedom. And they went through and they looked at a lot of the criminal activity that was happening in their city. And there's quite a few people who are judged incompetent. So there were people that had like 102 different, on down to lower numbers, but who had sometimes 2 arrests on the same day, and
Mhm.
Oh my God.
they were let loose. They could have stolen a car and also done shoplifting on the same day, and were again let
That's
out
comes from out
immediately,
there.
and partly because this word incompetent is allowed to people to just be, you're incompetent to stand trial, so you're on back on the street committing crimes again. That takes away all of our freedoms to have
Exactly.
these people out and about. And one thing that's happening there is there's psychologists who are judging incompetence, and they're making lots and lots of money, but they don't care enough to really want that, to really look at that person, listen to the jail calls, and see they're very competent in being a thief and being,
I mean, if you
using
were
our system, and
if
we
you were
need to,
capable to do some bad, you're
and they're
competent.
right. But the freedom
You're
needs
competent to do bad things, only not good things, and not to be
that's
responsible for your actions.
that's
You know what
what's
I mean?
mixed up. And here in our, in our city and
There's
county,
no consequences.
same thing. Yeah, the consequences are taken away, and the criminals are petted and, released, and the victims have very few rights at all. And I think we need to, really switch that around and really look carefully at the folks there, and get some competent people to decide on incompetence. And if you are truly incompetent, then you need care. You need to not be out on the street, committing.
Mental health. You need
Yes,
mental health.
and possibly
Yes. Yeah.
be,
Got to be consequence,
kept
like Miss Trujillo
someplace.
said.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that is one thing that I had one of our surveys. When you're a candidate, you get 1,000 surveys that you
Yeah.
have to do, and they're like,
Mhm.
they were talking about like police, and you know, is mental health one of those things that you should be addressing? Yes, you should. But on the caveat that you're not going to say, well, he was having a bad day. I didn't even think about what Mary was saying. These mental health professionals that they're using are getting paid lots of money to do that. Now, yes, I think if you're out there stealing, obviously you got some mental health issues, okay? But
Yeah.
that doesn't preclude your the consequences of your actions. Everybody can have the best of intentions. Well, I was hungry, so I stole. Well, the
Mm.
Bible says if you steal,
Yeah.
you're still
Yeah.
you still
Thief.
have the
Yeah.
consequences, and you're a thief, and
Yeah.
that should stop.
Exactly.
And but they use this kind of language to twist and make you feel sorry for the perpetrator.
Yeah.
No,
And that
happening in our
has to
society.
stop.
exactly.
You can get mental health treatment if you're
Jail.
in jail,
Exactly.
and then you're not having to go through this again. And I mean, how many times have you heard testimonies of people, when I was in jail, I got faced with myself and I had to deal with
But
myself.
that's the purpose of going to jail.
Yes, yes.
And to protect society,
Exactly.
that the victims
Right.
It's
don't need to
protect
deal with this guy
until
tomorrow.
you are
Yeah.
and even
sane.
yeah.
Yes.
And some of them, they know exactly what they're
They
doing.
do.
They what was it? They just had arrested somebody yesterday up in New York, and they were from I can't remember the country, so I'm not going to say it, but this guy said, "We are trained to shoot police officers." So, th- you know, that consequence needed to have been dealt with. When you have a group of people coming and their specific target is to shoot police officers, that's a problem. And you know, they're
FBI should be hunting those people.
yeah, they do this thing to kind of manipulate our emotions because we want to be compassionate. Yes, there's mental health needs, but again, who's providing this and what is their goal? Is their goal to rehabilitate? Because we have a lot of people who've gone through prison, they want to get rehabilitated. They got to get back into society. I'm all for that. Let's get people empowered to be able to change and not do that again.
Exactly.
Because there's a whole gamut. Go ahead,
And
Anna.
there's an organization that's reintroduces people that come out of jail. I'm going to be actually speaking to one of the directors there and talk about, what they do and if it's been a success or not here in New Mexico. But basically what they do is, they reintroduce these felons. Most of them are like felons, somebody who's been in there for quite a while in prison. And they help them with housing, they help them get a job, they help them try to get themselves together so they don't repeat what they went in there for. Because what happens, and I think because of the mental issues, if they're not taken care of in prison or in a facility afterwards, they reintroduce themselves back in because they feel safe in prison, so they'll recommit a crime again. My background is I have a master's in public administration with an emphasis in justice administration. And, there's a lot of theories that we were, introduced to. One of them was the labeling theory. And with that labeling theory, it's like once you're labeled, let's say a criminal or a thief or whatever, that label stays with you, and it doesn't matter how young you've been labeled. Even kids that get in trouble at school, you're labeled a troublemaker. We have to break that because with to try to rehabilitate somebody, you can't continue to label them and think that they're going to change. All they're going to do is get better at what they're being labeled at. And it's actually labeling. If you look at the whole consequences of labeling anything, it's a separation. It's to separate us as a society. These are the good kids, these are the bad kids, these are, you know what I mean? Or even in genders is a labeling. It's all about labels. And what do? We have people that are LGBTQ, whatever, they're labeled. And then we have, our straight, our Christians. Everything's a label. What we have to do is look at those labels and say, are they helping society, or do we just erase those labels and start working together as a community, as a society who cares for each other? Because I feel like we're so divided in this country right now that we're not looking at the actual problems that are hurting people. Most of these kids that are homosexuals or think that they need to change their gender and all this stuff, there's other issues behind all of that. There's depression involved, and I think this whole lockdown during COVID, that that just put everything out there to show what kind of problems we had. A lot of kids were depressed. They couldn't be with their friends. They were taken away from society. My boys were during that time when they were in high school, and they missed out on prom. They missed out on things that you can't bring back. Um, those issues have not even been dealt with right now. And I think there needs to be some type of, I don't know, it would be legislation or something, but there needs to be something to take care of that, because I still feel like those kids, and they're still the ones that are in school that are so behind, they're suffering still, and we're going to see a generation that really lost out, and we're not doing anything in mental health or anything else to really take care of that problem. So I recognize it. I'm sure you guys recognize it. Now let's figure out some solutions, because that's what's happening. These kids, it's not that they want to go and have a sex change or whatever. I think it's they're trying to, fill a void that they have, and it has not been addressed. And as adults, we need to start looking at things a lot differently. Instead of looking at things in a negative fashion, we need to start looking at the true problems that are underlying.
We got to go to the core of the problem, though, because kids will do escape to another different. I'm going to say a sex
Mhm.
change a gender,
Right.
change gender, because I'm probably going to find the world that I don't want to deal with right now. Instead of
Mhm.
sitting down with the person or the kid, whoever it is, and learn and say, no, that's not your problem. Your problem
Yeah.
is that you're not seeing things. There are some consequence, and the things that you do that need to be readdressed so you don't fall there. And suddenly you're going to free yourself up, and you're going to start feeling a lot better than being, you know, sad or whatever, trying to make a change and escape and run somewhere else. That's what people do, though.
Right.
But
That's exactly it right there.
If I
They
can,
need to learn to love themselves as individuals,
right,
and realize that there's not one another person like them in the world, and they're very special. And I think that needs to be said. I don't hear that. All I hear is, oh, if you don't want to be a man, you can be a woman, or if you don't want to be a woman, you can be a man, or you can be an animal. I mean, it's gone so crazy that people are not living in reality. And I think we need to bring them back to the reality, and really look at the root of the problem, like you said, because they are escaping it. They're escaping it through drugs, through sex,
exactly,
through whatever they can fulfill themselves. But when it comes down to it, it's they're lacking
exactly.
God.
You
They're lacking
mentioned
God in
something.
life.
You mentioned something about a label. Label is a way to imprison somebody, to put a
Mhm.
ceiling. It said, "Listen, this is where you're going to be at," and you're not, because if you are, if in society whoever labels you tells you that, then you start to believe it, even though
Yep.
you're not.
right,
Or
You
whether you
internalize
wear
it.
exactly, or whether you wear one, but you found the solution. You'll rehabilitate yourself. Say, for instance, people coming out of jail. Sometimes they come out people that who changed.
right,
Mhm.
They found God.
right,
Yes.
They did a lot of work inside that it was good for society. But when society comes out, he comes to society, we label them. And he
Mhm.
says, well, that's what I'm good at. I'm a criminal. I'm going to go
right,
back because that's what people sometimes we force people to be who they don't want to be in, whatever they want to get out. Instead of escaping, they're facing
right,
life and say, no, I understand. I see my consequence. I dealt with it. I understand now. And this, I was probably confused. I was misled.
right,
People probably that I surround myself were not the right people to nurture who I was. And suddenly I took their directions and I became one of them. Now I don't want to be that. But if you come out of society and says, hey, you're this, we label you.
right,
That's harsh.
right.
You know what I mean?
And that's kind of where, gangs come in,
Yeah.
because they provide that atmosphere, that family
Mhm.
atmosphere. But if I
Mhm.
can, when we see what happened with that COVID,
Mhm.
I believe it was a master plan, very genius plan from people like George Soros or Klaus Schwab. And they were using the techniques that communists would do. Uh, Pitting people against each
Fear.
other. Fear, the class system.
Yeah.
Klaus Schwab is trying to say, by 2030, you will own nothing and be happy. And so that appeals to our emotional part. Well, I want to be happy, so I'm going to own nothing. Well, these guys aren't going to own nothing. They're going to own you. And they use when I try to take a look at the big picture of what happened, because we have to see what was their purpose. Their purpose was to shut people down, to clamp them down, and then label them. You are the disease. You are the problem. If you don't want to be the problem, if you want to be free, you have to do thus and so. And those people who are not doing it, they're the enemy. It was a
Divided.
purpose.
Peer pressure as well. They used lots of peer pressure,
Yeah.
and incentives. Remember, they were giving money
Yes.
to go take the shot.
Yeah, go get
And
a
people
hamburger
were-
if you get a shot.
Yeah,
What
my
the-
husband was
what the-
offered $250 at his
Oh.
work to get it, and he didn't. But,
Yeah.
these are things, they find people in dire straits in times where, maybe people are losing their jobs, and then they're like, oh, hey, we'll incentivize it, and let's see if, more people will just conform, even if they know that it's not something they should be doing. Y'all are moving all over the
I
place.
know, we're sorry.
I know.
Well,
I'm like,
they were
"Woo."
offering the Albuquerque Public School students $100 to go take a shot. Did you know that?
No.
They were offering them $100 gift card for
Yeah,
our public
same with
school
the
students,
universities.
12 and over, and they didn't need the parents' permission. I was just like, oh, my
That's
God.
what I say. What do they tell you? They divide you and they
Right.
conquer you.
Yes.
Labeling is a way
Oh, that fell.
to divide you and conquer
Sorry,
you.
that's what fell.
Let's
Why don't
let,
you cut this for a
let's do
second?
this though. Let's do this. Uh,
Bring it up.
try to fix it.
Okay,
There we
lock.
go. Are you good?
I locked the top one.
I got a couple. Yeah, that's the one. Somehow it was loose.
It
I'll
got
fix it.
loose.
I'll fix it now.
Okay,
Here. I'll do this.
and bring it
Mhm.
up.
Oh, this is one of the smart cameras that we got.
Oh,
And
we're
why don't we do
still
this?
all
Why don't we
over.
do this? Why don't we
Oh,
do, why don't we
gosh.
do this?
We'll be a
What-
little dark, but that's okay.
Why don't we do this? There we go.
Okay,
And now we'll be able to get myself back on track.
great.
Okay, here we are. Somehow we're gonna have to fix
Cameras.
this. There we go.
All right.
Oh,
Okay,
there
that's
you
a
go.
little better.
Marcie, twice.
I know.
exactly. So, all righty.
Well,
No,
I was going to just add a little bit to what
Here we
we're
go.
talking about. And I think, with the labeling and all these other things, I look back in time, and it's like, I think what our president, President Trump was talking about, and they're always saying progressive, right? They want progressives in there. Well, President Trump, the reason why they work so much against him is because he see how prosperous it was when in his time, the American dream was real at that time. And he wants to go back to those basic ideals, where people worked hard, people succeeded, people had a plan. Right now, what we're seeing in our society is that, and I don't know if it started off as something that was a good thing, we want to take care of everybody, we want to do this and that, or it was a sinister plan in play, just like Marcie said, that just wants to control society. I think it's probably the latter. But when you give your all your, when you start receiving funds from the government, when you start taking in all this, you create big government, and guess what big government does? It starts taking over your lives. And then you no longer have your rights anymore. You're having to fall in line with whatever they say that you have to do to receive those incentives or money or whatever. And we're just giving away our power, and we can't do that anymore. We have to make sure that, there's something good in having a purpose, like we were talking about earlier, a purpose-driven life. When you work hard, let's say for your education, and you work hard and you pay for your own education, that education means a lot more to you than if it was given to you for free. Same with a car. Like, think about teenagers. When you give them a car, they don't understand the value or anything. they trash them, whatever. But as soon as they buy their own vehicle, oh, they don't want nobody messing up their car. I see that even with my own kids. It's like they take more pride in what they have actually had to work for. And I
Right.
think that's what we need back in society. People need to, have pride in what they do and work hard for things, and understand, like, wow, I was able to do this. I was able to buy my own home, whether it took me 3 jobs or whatever, and all the sacrifices, they can be proud that they were able to do that. Now everything's given, now with these high risers that they're putting downtown and everywhere else, and just trying to, put everybody, the homeless, in these housing developments. That's not good. It sounds all good in the big picture, but when it comes down to it, all it's going to do is create another problem, because these people, all they're going to do is want to just stay home, do drugs, and do whatever else that's going on. There's no incentive to work.
or take care of the
Exactly. They just
Yeah.
become a nest of it.
But
Right.
people, I think one big thing that's lost is, in the Bible, we are all made in God's image. We're,
Yes.
created in the image and likeness of God. And when that's not taught, when people don't realize their value comes from God and that image living inside us, then our overall view of ourselves and other people is denigrated so much that we are willing to do a lot of things. I mean, in my own life, I, did things that I let that image, fall away. I was taught that, but that once I realized that God loved me, that He forgave me, and that He made me for a special purpose, and that His light is within me. His love, for me is great. That I could um, do good things and do the purpose that He had for me. I think when we've lost that purpose and that view of ourselves and others is really a huge impact on our society. And I think, in some other states, particularly in Oklahoma and Louisiana, they're putting up the 10 Commandments in all the public
In
buildings
Oklahoma.
and other ones, and they're having a Bible in the classrooms in, I believe it's Louisiana.
I think
Oklahoma. Well, but the two of them are doing,
right.
could be either one, maybe both, but they're actually having Bible in the
classroom.
classrooms. And what
Exactly.
a wonderful thing to show truth, real truth, and to show, God's love, and show justice, true justice, that there are right and wrong things in this world, and there are moral and amoral, and kids need to know that, because all, what we've taught them is not true, is not according to God's word.
Correct. So, I mean, Miss Trujillo, I think she mentioned that values. Where do values come from? A family, from the heart of a parents.
So
What
parents
happened?
know.
What
A lot of
happened?
parents
What
don't know
happened
either.
25, 30 years ago? When I was raised with my parents, the air and the teacher, they were the same thing.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't know where to run. I said,
Right?
wow,
There
I
was
go
nowhere
over
to
here
run.
and I
Yeah.
hear like they have a tape recorder or something. I hear my father or mother, saying the
Yes.
same. And then you were formed. You walked the fine line. You says, listen,
You had
this is
respect
how.
for your elders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now what does the education does for you? Now you say something at home. You keep your values to what your parents and grandparents passed on to you. But you get challenged when your kids go to school. It's a plethora of so many things that go against the values. So how
Yeah.
can you, what kind of education are they getting? What the most important thing is the values that you're being formed, and math and all that is just complement to be able to prepare you to go on and do better things, either manual or by thinking or by other things when you
Well,
finish high school.
that's why I think the kitchen table comes back into play. Having dinner around the table and with the family, all at the table, so you can discuss these issues, discuss what you encountered at school. If I, like, that's what we do at our home. My sons will come out and they speak about it, like, oh, we had a teacher that was talking about this. She's about this, that, and the other, and we talk about it not being right. It's not in line with our values. And they realize it because they're recognizing it. And that's what our kids need. We need to still be involved, even if we're not at the school. And even if we have bad people at the school teaching, we have to equip them with the right words, whether it's, but biblical values and passages that they can take with them to school, or with at least, at the bare minimum, let them know, it's like, you're right. That's not right. It's wrong. And let them know that, good for you. Good for you seeing through that.
Right.
But right now, in most homes, I don't live in everybody's home. I know my home, but I think a lot of these children don't sit down with their parents, their last dinner before they go to bed. They don't sit down and talk about the issues. That's what we were brought up. We have to talk about the issues. And even if they're going to be thrown out in society and we know what's out there, they at least are getting, the true values at home. And we're all kind of speaking about the reasons why we don't like what's going on and seeing it. And these kids are involved. I think that needs to come back. Those are some of the basics that need to come back. Families need to start talking and speaking around the table and talking about the issues with their kids.
Yes.
Important. And that's
Yes.
the transfer of knowledge. That's the transfer of values. And one thing you said was that our schools have been a plethora of ideas. Well, they have been a plethora of ideas, except for Christianity.
Mm.
Okay.
Exactly.
And that was purposeful. That was what Madeline Murray O'Hara in the
Exactly.
60s, she said, we're going to take prayer out of schools. We're going to take the Bible out of schools because that is an offense to every other religion. Because it says there's one God, there's truth. And so they had to get rid of that.
Mhm.
And people always say, well, as long as there's tests in school, there will be prayer, right? And prayer is actually freedom of speech.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
For someone to say you can't pray to God, and now you're going to get flagged because, well, you can't have it's separation of church and state, which is not in the Constitution. It was actually meant. Uh, Thomas Jefferson said separation of church and state, meaning that the state could not dictate what the church did, not the church didn't have any say.
Exactly.
Because when you talk with these groups of people, they'll say, "Oh, just leave your beliefs at the door." They're not leaving their beliefs at the door.
No,
They have them ingrained in the laws that they're writing.
Exactly.
And so we have to be bold and challenge that thought. Well, you know what? That when you read Ephesians 6:1, it says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord." And then we have people in APS and even the school board training. They'll say, as soon as you sign your kid up for public school, that you have lost your right of what we're going to teach them. You have no rights. And we all have a common friend, um, Michaela and Casey Peterson, who actually did undercover videos of these people who are training our teachers and our school boards that are saying parents don't have any right to determine what goes on in their school
or to know.
Well, I'm saying if our tax dollars are there, we have a right,
Yes.
To know the whole thing.
right?
Okay. Let me. I mean, it's so interesting, though. I mean, uh, I saw that coming from about so many years back when they took religion out of everybody else. They tackle that. I says no. You know what? Religion is the heart of a family. You don't argue or debate about that, about whatever you go. I went to school. My parents were, my teachers were one unison. I couldn't do. I said, then I have to be disciplined. I was in sport. I have to pray every morning before I start the day in school. I had to pray at home. You know what I mean? All those type of values, I don't see being practiced. We need to
Mhm.
bring back that because I believe that's the heart of all values, and we cannot lose it.
See, I got one thing over you. When I was in school in South Dakota,
Uh-huh.
in a one-room day school, my dad was the teacher and the principal, and my mom
Oh.
was the nurse and the cook
You
at
were
the
doomed.
school. So we had we had it all around us. But I know, like speaking like with patriotism, even out there on the Sioux Indian reservation, my dad taught, both my parents, but taught patriotism and love for our country, respect for each other, and, and love for each other. And that was, such a formative, time. And we've lost that, even love for our own country and our state and our county and our city, that we respect it, that we would, take care of, everything around us. And I was there with my, a couple of my grandsons yesterday in the park. We were doing water balloons. We just, made the point, pick up the water balloon pieces and the extra. And the kids are, and one of them was saying, like, that's not our trash. Well, does it look better now that we're leaving? Yes, it's nicer for somebody else. And when the mower comes by, it doesn't chop all that in pieces. So, just those kind of ideas. And I think, I was down in the international district yesterday, and oh my gosh, the degradation and the sadness of the people there, and it's just trashed. And so my idea too of just getting people to work and be responsible before they get the handout, before they get the food that's being offered or the clothing. Let's go over here. We're going to clean up this vacant lot. We're going to clean up in front of this business because
Mhm.
it's
I think
the
that's a
right
good idea.
do. And having some, not just here, you can have this, take this, go throw your trash anywhere and
And it,
don't
it
care.
brings back dignity, I think,
Yes,
to the people,
Yes.
because I don't think everybody wants to be taken care of like that. They don't
no,
want to lose their dignity.
fall into that. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to fall. I mean, I think even these homeless people, what we've done is with even the people that are in between those medians, the panhandlers, people just handing them money, it's becoming a way of life. That's their job,
Mhm.
just standing there and just getting money handed to them. So why would they go work when they could probably make more money in 2 to 3 hours there, just
Yes.
getting money handed to them, than actually doing something to earn it?
Right.
you know
Right.
so so that needs to stop. We can't have that type of society who just gives you money and there's nothing in return, no work.
Right.
um
The Supreme Court just passed, that they allowed that suit from Idaho, I believe, that
Mhm.
they were trying to say that people should not be allowed to camp and live on public
Public
property,
property.
on
yeah,
sidewalks and in parks.
Mhm.
And the
yeah.
Supreme Court said that belongs to the public. It does not belong to individuals where you can't even walk on your own sidewalk. And so I think that gives some um, backing to the cities and the counties that are trying to
Okay.
stop some of this. So I think there'll be a way now more easily to
Well, it
go in.
becomes a danger to society.
It
There's
is.
no access. They start defecating and peeing everywhere. And I had a lady that came up to me up here in Rio Rancho, Sandoval County. And we were at one of the general meetings where I had spoken, and she came up to me. She goes, I don't know if you could help me, but I want to talk to you about a problem that I've been having. And this problem was basically, she lived in my district, District 9, Corrales Heights, and she was smelling this horrible smell for like weeks on end, and she didn't know where it was coming from. Her grandkids and her family wouldn't even want to come over because the smell was just horrible. They thought it was a sewer or some septic thing or something going on. Anyway, it finds out that the neighbor saw there was vagrants or homeless people that were basically an encampment that was right behind her wall, where she couldn't see it because the walls are kind of high, but they were living right behind her house. And she called the city, she called everybody, and they were all kicking the can. Oh, well, it's not our problem, it's this person's problem. Call these people. This went on for about 3 months. So thank God, she did bring it to my attention. And me, I made a few calls. I talked to our local journalists here in Rio Rancho for the Rio Rancho Observer. And it just so happened he lived in that area. And we were able to go to her home. We did a journal report, and talked about, we took pictures, everything. Then we called the mayor. And we brought it up and we said, look, she's already called you. Nothing's been taken care of. She's living like this. She's living in danger. She's 77 years old. Her grandkids can't even come over and play. Something needs to be done. Or if it's not done, we're going to be sending this out. And everybody's going to know that you guys aren't doing anything to help this lady. And I'm not kidding you, within 2 days, they had a cleaning crew up there. They took those people out. And guess who came to her door to visit her? The mayor in
Good.
person.
Good. That's good.
It's a credit
So,
to him.
those are things we have to do, and these poor people, that's what makes, I'm not even in there yet, but that's like, to me, that was like being able to do that, help somebody out that just has been ignored, there's so many people like her. I'm sure that this has been happening too. But when you call attention to somebody, and take care of the problem within days, what it took, I mean, she was just basically being given the runaround for over 3 months or more.
She was the prisoner.
Yeah.
And she's a
She
victim.
and she had a beautiful place. Her house and her yard was immaculate. I mean, for 77 years, I don't know if she paid somebody to do it, but she had beautiful green grass. All her stuff was, I mean, it was a beautiful place. And for her to not be able to enjoy her grandkids and her children there, it was really sad. And to be ignored that way, after she's already put into the system, she's paid her dues, she just wants to live her life, her last years.
And that's
So
what a lot of people sometimes come to the point to uh, believe that this is not a world to live in, and suddenly
Mhm.
they go left and do something
yeah, yeah,
drastic
Yes.
to
yeah.
themselves. Because they said, what's the sense of me to getting up
Or
and go
could
to
you imagine not being able to see your grandkids because they don't want to go because your place smells,
Yeah.
and
And
not seeing your
Yeah.
grandkids is huge when you're 77 years old, or your family, when they stop seeing you.
Right.
So I'm glad we were able to help her out. It was really a
Well,
blessing.
Okay, let's do this though. I think we have about 7 minutes or 8 minutes. Why don't you take 3 minutes each one of you and say what is a need that you see there and what changes or improvements do you like to bring for the people and your House District 28?
So, if I were to talk about one point in in my district, and because of my background, my expertise, it would be improvements in education. I believe that the monies should follow the child.
Yeah.
So what we've seen so far is monies just go to the institution, to the school district. And it doesn't matter how much money you keep throwing to a dumpster fire, it still gets burned. But when we have it follow the child, that child is going to get the most benefit from that. And for those people who maybe can't get their child out from a public school, if we want our public schools to get extra money, then that would be based on parental participation, deciding on what books are going to be in your curriculum, parents participating in school board meetings, parents participating in their PTOs, PTAs, parents coming and helping in the classroom. Because right now they're not allowed without fingerprints and stuff like that. And you want to have a safe atmosphere for your kids, but when it's overkill and parents get the message that they're not allowed, they're not wanted, um, that
Gotta open that door.
that's damaging.
Okay, Mary, what about yourself?
Well, I'm Bernalillo County Commission in District 2. We don't have as much of the, homelessness, but I think as a county commissioner that is one of the biggest things, and it's been addressed. We have over 60 nonprofits that are working on this problem, and I think we're just really approaching it the wrong direction. Like I said earlier, the Supreme Court will now allow us to go in some different directions. So that's one of the biggest things I think in our county. Also, what connected to that is obviously crime, because when people live in these kind of situations, there's a greater number of crimes against the businesses that are in the area and against homeowners and things like that. We have a new warden at the MDC at the Metropolitan Detention Center at the jail. And I think that person really is going to be really making some changes to actually have rehabilitation for the prisoners, instead of it being a club of all the guys and girls that are doing the same things to learn some new tricks. That my hope is that he will take a different approach to actually rehabilitate folks, help them with some job training, with the need to work and be responsible. And so those are our two areas. And then the third for me would be just a focus on actual families, like Audrey was saying, of trying to shore up families that are trying to do the right thing and trying to take care of their children, educate them, and teach them the right things to do, that we would put our resources in the county into places like, Mesa del Sol, where the kids can do, and adults can do sports and activities that are good for their health and for their well-being. Um, and also it's good economically for our city to have, have a really good sports facilities that people come from out of state, and that would just be a wholesome atmosphere in our county and city and beyond. That we would really focus on people who are doing the right thing and not just dump all our resources, all our thought, all our creativity into trying to solve the problems of homelessness and crime, that start early on doing good things for families, that we can try to prevent some of the homelessness and crime that comes from people being lost, and people not understanding that they're made in the image and likeness of God, and that God loves them. And there's a whole bunch of people in the church in our areas that want to help, and the church needs to stand up and begin doing good things in our communities, build up activities like 4-H, which has values and morals, and those are the kind of things that I really want to focus on as well.
Excellent. Marcie, one final word, because I know I told you one thing. And anything that you want to add?
Well, so we talked about how started about peace and prosperity. I believe that because we are made in the image of God, what did God do? He created. And when we're just giving just to give, um, it does, like Audrey was saying, it takes away from people's initiative, because we're really created to create. We're, that inside desire, that drive is taken away,
Yes.
and to be able to create opportunities for people to do what they're made to do. Ronald Reagan said the best social program for everyone is a job. Now it may not be exactly what you want to do right in the beginning, but it was never meant to be that. You are meant to be able to be a productive member of society, because that's where you get your dignity. You get to give back, and I think that that's really important for people to be able to do.
Yes.
Excellent.
Can I say a
Nice
couple?
to hear you.
Yes.
Go ahead now. What would you see out there? What would you change? What would
Sure.
make you for me?
I would love to continue to use my influence, my contacts, to help people, to give a voice to those that have been ignored or forgotten. I want our citizens to have improvement of their quality of life. We all want to live a good life, and we want to be safe. And in the Senate, we have the ability to allocate funds through different sources that the state gives us for our district. And I think there's programs that have been ignored that actually are probably more worthwhile than some of the programs that have shown nothing positive coming out of them. I think, we do need to look at the homeless problems, because it's getting worse and worse, and it's seeping through all our communities. We need to look at mental health. I think that's a huge one. I think that's something that New Mexico does not have a whole lot of backing, even through the legislatures that are up there right now. We need to look outside the box, because what we've been doing and continue to do is not working. So I think innovation and different things and ideas is a plus, and I think that's listening. We don't have all the answers, but we can listen, and we can outsource, and we can talk to people, in our communities and that know more than us. Sometimes they know more than us, or they have ideas that we need to really give a voice to. And I feel that, in my position as a senator, I will be able to give that voice out there. Um, Bring back respect. We need to have respect. Our kids need to have respect. We need to have compassion, empathy, and we need to let people know that perseverance does work. When you work hard towards a goal, you are able to succeed. And we are the best country in the world, and be proud of that.
Yeah.
That those are the things I want to bring.
Excellent, excellent. All the audience and the viewers have really heard interesting things that can help give us a better life, a better peace, guidance, and center about, and also about God to be the center of everything. Here, Mary Ingham for Commissioner, County Commissioner, Marcie May for House District 28, and Mrs. Audrey Trujillo for New Mexico Senate District 9. We had three excellent women over here that want to put to work so many ideas, probably not to let things that are being right now guided to divert from the purpose of what you need and what you have to have in this life in order to bring the values of your family, education, work, peace, and a life that we deserve, and God first. Cannot forget about that. I thank you, three of you, very much. I think our listeners have taken a lot of value. Next week at 9 o'clock, we're going to be back on again. Probably welcome the three of you. And if you want to, I can hold up to 10 people on the screen. So I mean, if you bring that person, what are you talking about? That is from Vietnam, you said? From
I will
where?
check with them let me
That
see if I can get him in
people that I
here.
can throw abuse and warn
Oh,
us
yeah,
of what's coming to us if we can keep being so patient.
Prophecy.
right?
It's a good
Yeah,
idea.
what's coming down though, because this is, we have a probably hear the same saying is when the river makes noises because rocks are coming down with it. So
It's true.
that's
Yes.
that's just about it. So let's pay attention of the warnings
Yes.
before we have the problem in our face.
Yes.
Thank you very much, all of you. God bless you, and we'll
God bless you.
see you, we'll see you next time.
God bless
Thank
you.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye.